Hello everyone, and a big welcome to today's webinar. This is the 6th and final webinar in our Toolkit webinar series, and today we are looking at funding made simple, secure and support with confidence. The first 5 webinars of this series are available to watch on our YouTube channel. So it's fantastic to have you all here as we come together to explore how we can reduce food waste and ensure good food reaches those who need it most in our communities. My name is Kerry. I'm the Education Coordinator here at FoodCloud. And I suppose for those of you who aren't too familiar with FoodCloud and what we do, FoodCloud is a non-profit social enterprise working to tackle the twin issues of food waste and food insecurity. Our mission is to transform surplus food into opportunities to make the world a kinder place. FoodCloud redistributes surplus food from the food industry to a network of charity and community partners. In Ireland, FoodCloud redistributes surplus food to over 700 community groups. This not only prevents good food from going to waste, but it also strengthens communities by ensuring that more people have access to nutritious meals, helps community organisations save money on food bills, promotes personal well-being, and ensures that everyone plays their part in tackling climate breakdown. So this webinar series is all about empowering you, whether you're a passionate individual, part of a local group, simply want to make a difference in your community. We'll walk you through the FoodCloud Academy Toolkit, which is a step-by-step guide to help you start and run a food sharing project in your area. Community food sharing project, so what is it? It is any initiative that shares good food that would have gone to waste, offering it for free or at a low cost. So each webinar breaks down the toolkit into easy to follow parts, highlighting the most important things to consider. Plus, you'll hear directly from FoodCloud experts and community partners who've already set up successful food projects or any projects and are ready to share their experiences with you. So this webinar series looks at several different aspects. First, we cover Kickstart and Grow, essential steps and best practices for a successful food project. Secondly, we looked at Food Safety 101, essential laws and guidelines for food sharing projects. The power of people, recruiting, managing and motivating your team. Bringing your project to life, practical steps for success. Making an impact, how to share your project story effectively. And finally, then today, we're looking at funding made simple, secure and support with confidence. So today's webinar will be short, practical and packed with useful insights from both a FoodCloud expert and a community member who has been in your shoes. So what to expect from today's webinar? We're going to look at proven strategies for securing funding and diversifying income, and also looking at how to confidently communicate your project's value to funders. So the FoodCloud expert today is Tara Clark, as FoodCloud Senior Development Manager. And our community partner today is Sinéad Donnelly Hickey, Manager with FoodShare Kerry, and both will be sharing their first-hand experiences. Just to note, there will be a chance for Q&A after the presentations, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We hope this session leaves you feeling inspired and equipped with the tools you need to take action in your community. So let's dive right on in, and I'd like to introduce Tara, who will start us off.
Perfect. Thanks, Kerry. It's nice to meet everyone. I'm Tara. I'm the Senior Development Manager in FoodCloud. So just for some background, I've been working in fundraising in the nonprofit sector in Ireland for about 8 years now, and joined FoodCloud about 4 years now, helping to build out the fundraising function here. So first topic we're really looking at here is identifying opportunities. So the very basis of what you're doing to find funding and connecting with funders. The first tips I'd like to really instill on my team and to those we're working with to support their fundraising is really that initial research piece and making sure you're identifying the right funders who fit with the work you're doing and making sure it's that kind of mutually beneficial partnership there. So what we do and think that's really practical is just utilizing Google searches and Google alerts as best as possible to identify businesses or opportunities that might be aligned for your work. So for us, it would be setting up a Google alert for like Food Insecurity Grant Ireland, food waste funding Ireland, things like that, that would really trigger potential funding opportunities into your Google alerts too. Within Google searches, we're really trying to scope and find companies or grant-making organizations that have a commitment that aligns to our work or purpose, which is, around food insecurity, the environment, reducing food waste. So to do this, we're doing that initial Google search, going into a company's website, really looking at the About Them section, seeing what they do, really looking at their CSR, ESG pages to get a good look and know at where their focus is. Corporate social responsibility page is kind of key there to see what their strategy is. And their annual report would often detail what that strategy is, what kind of charity partners they're working with, who they might be supporting at what level. All of that information gives you a good insight into if a company or grant making organization would be a good fit. In addition, there's some very Ireland focused resources that we like to check out too. The Wheel is a good one, Active Link, local county council websites often have grants too, so I'll have a bit more of that later on. And the other thing we found with identifying opportunities is that cold research and reach out to do work, but the really best tool there is utilizing your existing network. So this could be your board of directors who might have connections to the business community, leadership in the organization, those who are connected in with other organizations, seeing who they're working with, their networks that they've worked with previously. We also work with our existing funders to see who else they might know. They might have their own clients, for example, and it really kind of highlights that mutually beneficial piece where they might be introducing you to people, but by making those introductions or helping you identify new potential funders, those funders are highlighting the good work that they're already doing with you too there. So nice link in there. And then location is another big one too. So looking at what local businesses are around you, who might be interested in their work, and really making those local community connections there too are great networks. Even chamber events by you, local networking opportunities, things like that. When you are connecting with funders, we really find a key piece there is having clear messaging. So being really concise on who you are, what you're doing, and who your work benefits. Really kind of three key pieces there so people can understand what you're doing, and making sure that an initial reach out or pitch isn't too lengthy or going into every part of your work or every program that you're running, but really kind of focusing on that top level piece. Another thing we like to focus on too when initially connecting with funders is concentrating on how you can partner together. I think every organization you might be looking for funding for, whether it's a corporate or grant making opportunity or even government, really likes to see the mutually beneficial aspect of that relationship. So what you guys can give back or do together. So constantly concentrating on that language when reaching out. Perfect. The next piece there is actually building these strong partnerships with funders. So we've really found that the best, strongest relationships or partnerships we have with funders are built where there's a mutual alignment on mission and values. So they're really bought into the work we're doing. There's that mutual focus on whether it be food insecurity, the environment, the impacts of food waste for us, and that the company and their employees or whatever partner it is really understand what we're doing. So in order to create this, we really like to define what our partnership offering is and how we can partner with the potential funder. For FoodCloud, we offer volunteering in the warehouse, picking and packing orders. So, employees can come in and really get a taste of what we're doing firsthand and help make that impact. We also have volunteering in our community kitchen in Clondalkin or out gleaning on the fields. So all of that's on offer to any partners we work with. Comm support is another big piece. So laying out that comms plan when partnering with someone, whether it be the press release or social media support, anything like that. Webinars back to our partners for employees, lunch and learns to launch the partnership, educational tips on food waste. That's all things we kind of lay out in the very beginning that we can support so they know how we can engage with them. The next piece is impact reporting to the funder. So we find this is a huge part of our strong partnerships, is that the funders understand the metrics we can use to report back to them, whether it's on food moved, meals redistributed, things like that, but being very transparent in the get-go when establishing the partnership on what we can give back and measure. Not only does that help build the partnership, but it also prevents any miscommunications later on terms of what we'll report back or what their funding is supporting. The next piece there is really strong stewardship of our partners. So we find it is much easier to keep a partner on board than it is to find a new partner. So we put a lot of effort into maintaining and really nourishing those relationships with our funders. For us, this looks like newsletters out to our partners. We send these out quarterly, and they include fun food waste tips, different recipes, news on what's happening with FoodCloud and in the food waste sector. We like to do a partner highlight on our different partners. So all of this really engages people and keeps them up to date on our work. Not only those digital reach outs, but we do make an effort to have regular meetings with our partners. Depending on what the partner wants or the size of them, sometimes they could be bi-weekly for some of our largest partners, quarterly, or even twice yearly, but making sure that we are checking in on a regular basis to know that we are engaged and kind of updating them there on our work and the impact of their funding is some actions we'd be taking. We like to share good news stories as well too. So, if a huge new food waste policy is passed, or FoodCloud is working with a new organization or starting a new project, sharing things like those just on an ad hoc basis with partners is a good way to engage. And then, bringing people out to your sites or to your projects. We often bring donors in to visit our hub here in Dublin, or we've brought them out to Cork before, but really bringing them to show them the impact of the work and what you're doing firsthand is a lot stronger than just a video call or virtual catch up. So we do utilize those where possible. And the other piece there is good governance and management. So, and so many charity and business or funder relationships, that's such a key piece of what they're doing. They want to know that their funding is spent in the designated way and that the charity is kind of upholding all of its governance obligations. So we really try to maintain that with them and incorporate that as part of our reporting back to partners too. And then, we're always ready to report back on how their financing has been spent, what the board of directors is doing, how often they're meeting, and providing any financial statements back when requested. Perfect. And then the next piece is applying for grant funding. So I know this can seem scary to a lot of organizations. Grants was definitely a new one for me when I was coming into FoodCloud, but it isn't always as scary or complex as it seems. The first thing I would really look at when looking at a new grant or funding opportunity is very simply looking at the terms. Those can often quite designate, is this funding applicable for you? Is this a good opportunity? So, really kind of scanning it to see if there's any stipulations around the amount of revenue an organization has. Sometimes there's a cutoff threshold there, number of employees. De minimis state aid is a big one. So the Irish state has regulations on how much government funding an organization can be getting at any one time. So just keeping an eye on that, years in business, all of that would be things I would be really scanning for an initial instance. The second piece there is having a bank or a standard thing of documents that applications will always require. These are things pretty much every single funding opportunity, whether it be government, a corporate foundation, anything would ask for. And these are a list of your board members, so making sure that's up to date. A lot of times they'll ask for senior management team members as well too. Your constitution or governing document for an organization, that's another big one. Pretty much everyone will ask for. That proves the amount of years in business and that you are upholding your governance there. Proof of charitable or nonprofit or community organization status, all of those will often be asked for, and audited financial statements if applicable for a lot of the government grants. So when actually applying for the grant, we've really found that the winning applications focus on the issue you're trying to address and how it relates to the call or funder's objectives. For example, if we're applying to a government grant concentrated on reducing food waste, we'll really be relating it back on how the government set out objectives to reduce food waste, what policies that are in place that the government's trying to meet, really making sure that the project we're applying for kind of hits that and relates back to the overall call there. The next piece is the main beneficiaries you support. So the application really wants to understand where the funding's going, who you're supporting, and the impact it'll make. The next is how you'll go about this. So not only who you support, but what are your set plans to deliver the project you're proposing, what impact it'll create, what are the KPIs around this. We always try to be clear as possible with those. And again, relating that back to the overall funding call. And then most importantly, this could be an apparent one, but sometimes people miss this, is why their funding is needed and the impact it'll create. So being very transparent on why your project needs funding, what you plan to deliver with it, what the impact of the certain call can make, and the KPIs around it. So we really find having set data and figures helps really justify why we're requesting that funding. Perfect. The next piece is communicating your impact. Again, we found this to be really, really important over the course of building our fundraising. So really, first and foremost, good communications are often the first and most direct way to highlight your work and impact to the community and potential funders, really getting your messaging out there. And the more people who know you and what you're doing as an organization, the more people who are likely to connect in with you as potential funders. So with this, knowing who your audience is and who you want to communicate with is really key. This itself will help determine what communication channels you're utilizing to get your messaging out there. We found LinkedIn is really good, aimed at members of the business community. So often this is where we're posting about potential partnerships, funding, what grants have enabled certain work, because it really does kind of create that messaging of what you need support with and what impact you've had to potential businesses or funders who might be out there. Instagram and Facebook are both kind of forums aimed at maybe the younger social media using community. Instagram itself can kind of be that fun facing one to communicate more public facing messaging. Maybe you have a fun event coming up, or you're running a really cool program aimed at youth, or just in general, a little bit kind of more creative based than the LinkedIn posting. And then utilizing radio, newspaper, TV, these are great too, to really get your message out to a wide, broad, general audience. So they're public facing forums to communicate maybe stories about impact you've created, who you're working with. Different podcasts and things like that are great as well too, to help amplify that. So we've really found stories are the most powerful tools for engaging potential funders and getting them to buy into our work we're doing. We have great stats around what we're doing, great measurable data, but when we're really sitting down with the funder, really telling the stories of the charities we support and who they're directly working with and what the impact of that food is what really brings potential funders in. So don't be afraid when you're talking to a funder to really get into those stories where appropriate on who you're supporting and how you're changing people's lives. And then the last piece is just be clear in your communications on what you need funding for and how partners can get involved. The more transparent you are, the more they'll walk away with clear message on how they can support. Perfect. And then the last is just some resources we found really helpful. Just quickly touching on these funds for NGOs is a great resource for different grant funding opportunities for all different types of nonprofits. The wheel itself is great because it's an Irish-based resource concentrating on funding for nonprofits. So Funding Point itself would constantly be listing different grant opportunities, a lot of them focused around government or different foundations or open calls that are currently out there. So I would really recommend, if you're dealing with funding in any way, to join that one. Local county council websites or LDC websites, those are the local development companies, constantly have different funding, whether it be for IT upgrades, different capital projects, things like that. So would always encourage you to keep an eye on those. Pobal Dormant Accounts Funds or their SS&O program constantly have different open calls too. So that SS&O program is one that's really key for kind of core funding for organizations, and that will most likely be opening at the end of this year. So just encouraging you there to keep an eye out for that. And then the Charities Institute Ireland and Philanthropy Ireland are great resources for nonprofits who are involved in fundraising. So whether it be training, capacity building in those areas, or different open calls there as well too. So much.
Fantastic, Tara. Thank you so much. Really, really insightful. Sinead, we will come to you.
Great, thank you so much. Like Kerry said, my name is Sinead Donnelly Hickey, and I'm manager of FoodShare Kerry. So FoodShare was established in 2015, and it was two organisations, St Vincent de Paul and North East West Kerry Development, came together and they identified a need for something that resembled a food bank in Tralee. So what we are technically is a food bank supply depot. So we capture quality surplus from supermarkets, businesses and food producers, and we match that to organisations who are best placed to get that to the people in need. So we're not a food bank that people can access directly, but we bring that to all different organisations and our charity partners At the moment, we have up to 90 charity partners that we deal with, but we deal with them on a different basis. Some of them are every day, some of them are once a month, and some are just periodically throughout the year. We also administer the European Social Fund. So that's what kind of the main part of our work in the admin side of things. And lately, we're really proud of, we've become a sub-hub FoodCloud depot. So we ran a pilot program for 4 weeks, and we partnered with an FRC in the local area. So we have a driver, he collects from FoodCloud, brings the goods to Buds in Ballyduff, and they now have a little community larder, like a social supermarket that they're starting to develop within Ballyduff. And it's something we're really, really proud of. And I think thanks to with the initiative from FoodCloud, it was something we were very keen to grow. My background, I'm a community development worker, and I'm only with FoodShare since November. And one of the things that I identified when I came in here, there were a few gaps, but definitely growth was one of them. I saw that we were an amazing resource, but we could do more. So, but thanks to FoodCloud, we're able to do that now. We're also involved in community education programs, centering around zero waste, circular economy within the home, the community, and society in general. We're also trying to run some nutrition workshops based around the food that we would capture and what you can do with that. But that is more, let's say we're going to start some programs with schools at the end of the year as well, and possibly rope in a few transition year just to focus on education, all the time coming back to our own remit, which is the circular economy, zero waste, and tackling food poverty in our area. So that would be the biggest part of our work. With the partner we have is St. Vincent de Paul at the moment. So we would see a lot of that in the community. So it would be a huge part of our work as well. So that's basically how we work. Challenges like everybody else that we deal with is no different. Funding, massive. So the way we are funded is a staff only program. We have no operational funding day to day. So that is something we have to go out and find all the time. Staffing issue, we have three staff and worn to the bone like everyone else really, so everything lands on those three staff. No potential really to employ more people. We always try and say that if we had more, we would do more. But that is part of our plan going forward as well. The reduction in surplus that we're seeing out there, so it has reduced a lot. Supermarkets are trying to do more to make money from things that would normally have gone to surplus before. So we see more, let's say, other organizations that they're trying to, maybe like a lucky bag situation within supermarkets is a challenge for us. Other organizations trying to capture surplus is very good. But I think we deal with that by looking at if the surplus is being captured and being used in some way, then our agenda is being met as well. So it is, I will talk later, let's say, how we deal with those challenges, but it is a very real one at the moment. Social media would be another one. Like I said, we've limited funding and staffing. Social media is time consuming. It takes a lot for somebody to stay on top of trends. So we do that between us. We have somebody that does it here for us within the staff. Luckily, we have somebody that's very good at it naturally. So we're just trying to access more training and things like that. But we find it is brilliant to use it. There's no printing, there's no flyers, there's nothing like that. And it's current. It's so up to date. If anything changes within your day, it's out there into the public domain then straight away as well. So for us, it would be a great channel. But it is a challenge because it is time consuming. Supply meeting demand. I suppose at the moment our demand is huge. We find that people are being squeezed financially in the area of food, and they naturally then would think of somebody like us. So our supply is just not enough to meet that demand. So it is a big challenge for us. It's something we're looking at to see can we, increase supply in any way whatsoever, because the demand is increasing. I find it's increasing every week. So it really is up to us to meet that demand. Downturn in donations as well. At any time when there's a bit of a squeeze, donations will go down straight away. So I think the reliance on things like that, on donations, it can't be part of your main work. I think you have to work at it, yes, but you have to just let it be something that is in the background and just continue on. So I'll just talk a little bit about how we tackle challenges. Tara has already said there very well about some ways to tackle. For us, social media training is very important. It is looking at the trends that are out there, what's popular, and it is learning how to target people, how you even make your videos as an organization. And we didn't know until recently that everything is made for portrait now, nothing landscape. It's very quick. Understanding people's attention spans are quite short. So tailoring everything to what society is looking for when they look at their phone and social media, what they want from you. And I suppose it's trying to get our message across using those parameters is very important. I can't really overstate how important networking is. This is where you find out how the little pockets of funding that are around in different areas. Get on your networks, like the Kerry PPN network that we're on here, and finding out where you fit into that is very important. So for us, anything to do with environmental and poverty would be where we would always try and make linkages, find out who's on those committees, find out who's on those boards, get on those boards as well if you can yourself. You're doing two things. You're accessing information about funding, but you are getting the information about your organization out there as well. And talk about your organization more within the networking. It's not always, you want the information for you. Get the information about your organization out there. Boast about your organization. I do find that's very important, and you get remembered for facts and figures that you might have that you can talk about things. It's very, very important then when it comes to the time of making your application. They remember you. They think, oh yeah, I remember that. They talked about that. And give them your information about your social media platforms as well, where they're going to get more information about you. Another thing that we try and do is understanding funding strands and national development. So when you look at the funding strand, go back up along the line of where it's coming from, what department it's coming from, and try and link that to the National Development Plan. There is a reason they have come up with this funding. They have outcomes set out for this funding that they want. Try and link, see if your organisation fits in that, and in your application state that. So their outcomes you have in your application, if it fits, is that you are meeting those outcomes. So you're nearly answering their challenges that you have within your organization on the ground. So just try and do that to look at the departments that the funding is coming from. Diversifying your organization. I suppose for us, it's the bravery to start a sub-hub project. And it was a pilot program. It was a big commitment. But for us, I think it's just have that bravery just to diversify a little bit. If there's a need out there and you need to change something within your organization, be brave enough to try it. And that, like the next point, engage in pilot programs. So if there's any pilot program that's out there and you're not too sure, it's not a big commitment to change something within your organization for a number of weeks or something, just try it. It is worth it. You learn a lot about your own organization when it faces a challenge. You know the strength of your organization if it can meet that challenge. So that's important. So being open to change will be something, be adaptable in some way, I find is quite good, because you might be able to adapt something within your organization to meet a funding strand as well. It's very important. Another thing we're trying to do to tackle the challenges, like I said, there's the increase in need. Log all of that. Anything that you get that phone call, there's an increase, log it, and then have something to give to the organization that you're applying for and say, look, we've had 10 phone calls this week. We've had 10 organizations reaching out to us. If we had more, we would do more. You need to create a national picture of a change that's out there for an increase in demand. And that is great for funding opportunities. So you are all the time logging that. You are conducting an informal needs analysis in your own community as well. It's very important to do that. I suppose as changes to FoodShare, we're working on all the time trying to increase linkages. Anywhere that we see something that we can join in on. So let's say if you apply for a funding strand, but you can't fulfill one part of it, join with somebody else to do it. It will strengthen your application to show networking within the community as well. So if you could link in, like we're going to do a project where we're linking in with St. Vincent de Paul and a family resource centre to make the application. The strength of the application will be a lot stronger, and it shows the impact on the ground. You can never really stop boasting about the impact, the change you're bringing to the lives of individuals, families, communities, society as a whole. Really have that everywhere, accessible on your website, on your social media. Very important. Self-help growth. I wanted to grow more. I want more. I want vans on the road. I'm really aspirational in what I want for FoodShare. And I think it is important because if you're always reaching, you never know what's going to happen. It is important to do. I want to increase volunteers within our own area as well. We have volunteers contacting us want to come on. So I want to do more with that to alleviate staff pressures as well. It is important. Board of management development. I want more on the board of management, but I want people that are in groups that will benefit us as well. Being on a board of management is not something somebody can put down in a CV. They need to be of use to the organization as well. So have subcommittees within your board of management, people that may be semi-retired. Even for us, we're targeting anyone retired from Kerry Group. We're, large organizations who have that history and they have a set of skills to bring to you. And it's very, very important that you have spread around the work to be done. Grow the social media following in any way you can. We're trying to do that at the moment with little videos and vlogs, so we're changing it up all the time. We're interchanging the ones that we would use. We try and boast a bit more on LinkedIn for organization to check us out, and then social media is just trying to catch Instagram, Facebook. It's always trying to catch attention. And we were talking to people one day about our social media, and they said, oh, when you put up about kilograms rescued, it doesn't mean anything to us. Whereas when you put up something tangible like it filled Croke Park twice over, it was just a little bit more. So those catchy things with social media are very, very important. I think the main thing for any organization is always plan ahead and reach for the stars. I don't think there's too much that you can't wish for your organization to be able to do. And I don't think there's anything more that you can wish for the impact on the ground as well. And it is for us, what inspires us is change within our community and effect on the people that we would deal with and on the environment as a whole. So we're always wishing for more for FoodShare. Thank you.
Fantastic, Sinead. Thank you so much for some really valuable advice in there. And just in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish, I suppose, with a few points that I have taken from both the presentations that I think are quite inspiring and people should remember as we close out. And that is, as you said, Sinead, boast about the impact that you make. Don't be shy about it, boast. And also to promote your organization. Let funders, let the community, let networks know about what you're doing and the impact you're making. And finally, be aspirational, as you say, reach for the stars. So with that, I'm going to bring these discussions to a close for today. This is the last webinar in the Toolkit webinar series. And to watch the webinars again, check out our FoodCloud YouTube channel and share on your socials. And get more information on setting up a food sharing project, you can check out our toolkit at food.cloud/academy/toolkits. I would like to thank sincerely the brilliant presenters and to you all for joining. This was really insightful, and I hope that each and every one of you have been inspired from the presentations and discussions today and over the last couple of weeks. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again. Bye.